ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to episode 57 of That Great Business Show, posting on the 15th of October 2021. I am Conal O'Moran. Coming up on your favourite business podcast, in Tipperary, the chips are down. 60 million of them, and they're winning some big awards, and I'll explain all of that in a minute. We have news of an investment competition giving you virtually €250,000 to invest, and the company that will build a town bigger than Kilkenny or Carlow or Tralee, and they'll be done by the early part of 2023. That's just a little over a year away. We want to hear from you, so please do follow us on our LinkedIn pages, and anyone at all can have a chat with us there. It's where we are now sourcing many of the great companies we feature on That Great Business Show. And as always, we are truly grateful to our wonderful sponsor, De Facto Shaving Oil, makers of the world's best shaving oil. Their support brings you the best business stories and insights every week. And now that we're travelling again, their 25ml bottle of all natural shaving oil is your ideal travel companion, and shipping is free for orders over €20.
That Great Business Show.
I'm always curious as to where people who own businesses find the time to count how many products they have produced. But they do. For example, joining me now is Phil Martin, founder of Blanco Nino, a Tipperary-based maker of tortilla chips. Philip tells me that so far they have produced 60 million of their award-winning chips, or crisps, as you may or I may call them, and that's a lot of chips to count. Philip, or Phil, thank you very much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thanks for having me, Con.
This is not the first time, nor the second time that you and I have met.
No, we've kind of grown up in a way, looking at yourself.
Well, I have gone downhill and you have gone uphill in a really terrific way. Your company is now employing 42 people. You are in, 20 plus markets across Europe mainly, and you are making 2.5 zillion chips a day or something.
Yeah, it's certainly come a long way from our first chat, where corn tortillas and tortilla chips were kind of a twinkle in the eye, and I think all we had at that point was a piece of paper and a YouTube video explaining what we wanted to do. But it's certainly come quite a long way to Tipperary. Yeah.
But how have you managed to do it? Because you're not the only producer of tortilla chips, and yet there's something tenacious about you.
I think I'm a bit tick-headed, I think, Colin, is what it is.
I think that helps in business.
It does. I think,
down.
We have this induction for every member of the team who comes on, and we have a list of company principles and so on. And one of them is perseverance. And we always say, if the door is closed, the window's often open, because my God, have we met many closed doors since we started in business.
But you managed to smash them open eventually.
Oh, yeah, we do. We do eventually. But it's, like Tipperary is not known for its large native population of tortilla chip makers, historically speaking.
Or tortilla chip eaters.
Exactly.
Because that is really a Spanish food.
It is Mexican. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Spanish tortilla is the potato omelette more so. But yeah, no, it's.
But you also make. You make chips, as in chips, and also tortillas.
Yeah, but tortillas being corn tortillas. So,
yes.
Basically the flat bread or wrap that you'll have in a Mexican restaurant like 777 or 777 here in Dublin City Centre, or El Grito, these kind of guys.
Which is obviously a customer of
yours.
Of
course.
So we're now going to be treated to about 300 brand names that you have are buying your product. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, we sell, like, the whole business has been built off selling premium quality corn tortillas to restaurants, bars and hotels, whether they be here or in Germany or in France or so on. So, we've gotten this reputation for being the go-to guys in Europe for being anyone looking to make, premium quality Mexican food. So we'll work with chains in the UK like Oaxaca. So all of their tacos would be made with the base being a Blanco Nino corn tortilla.
From Tipperary.
From Tipperary, yeah.
It is a fantastic story.
Yeah.
And it all came out of your head. You went on a little trip.
Yeah. Well, I've like it wasn't like if we look back at it now, people think that it was a grand plan and it was very well conceived of, and it was quite far from it. You know, I had a very simple want to make corn tortillas for my restaurant, my then restaurant, which was Little Last Burrito Bar, which I've since sold on to my business partner and focused full time now on the manufacturing company. But
question:
tell me, yeah.
Why did you choose manufacturing over running what was the successful, or maybe it still is a very successful restaurant?
Yeah, it's still doing really well. It's going from strength to strength, in fairness. Do you know what? I really like, I think, manufacturing. I like the intricacies of it. I like that, you know, I feel like it's easier to gain ground in a manufacturing company. So you can build a relationship with, say, a distribution partner in, say, Germany or France, and it feels like once you capture ground, it's easier to hold on to it, as long as you're doing everything right. Whereas I often feel that the hospitality industry, although I love it, and it's where a lot of my family are involved, it's a lot more trend orientated. And although you can build institutional kind of value in kind of maybe a restaurant or a pub, I just found the bigger opportunity in the manufacturing company. But I think I'm a little bit more into that side of things anyway. I love the making of kind of product and the figuring out of process and everything down to our volcanic stones, you know, how to carving them on site. And I think by my nature, I'm a little bit obsessive, you know, so I kind of like, I gravitate to more of a manufacturing and kind of the more direct-to-consumer side of things.
But one thing that you have held on to is a brand name, because just off air we were chatting about this. It is safer to have and build your own brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
So we were talking about the example of our very good and well respected and admired brand in Ireland, Glisk, who recently
had a dreadful fire.
Yeah, very upsetting, and no doubt they will, you know, raise from the ashes at some point, and I think we all look forward to it. And I gave the example of if that happens and you're a functional manufacturer producing for, say, third parties as a brand or producing under contract, you can lose that business very easily. But
when you say a functional manufacturer, that means a no brand.
A known brand. There's no brand value. So if something cataclysmic like such happens, you'll get replaced, and it's very difficult to get that slot or that contract back. Whereas if you're an admired brand that has, you know, years of continuity of quality and so on, you can recover that through, say, nostalgia, almost when you do come back, and hopefully the period is as short as possible. But it's very, very difficult to do that in this particular scenario. And if I'm doing something, I want it to be, maybe it's a bit of an ego in me, but I want it to be our quality. I want it to be, you know, something that we stand over. It's something that's kind of very personal to us as well. So maybe there's something in that, you know. Now,
you do have, obviously, international competitors. They don't play fair, do they? Nobody in business really plays fair.
Possibly, but I don't really focus on them. I think we just focus on our own house, you know. Let them do them and we'll do us, you know.
There was a lesson taught to me a long time ago by one of my bosses, and it is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
like the idea of that, yeah.
I think so. I think people who keep on watching what everyone else is doing end up doing what they've already done and not what they're going to do, you know. Whereas I think we're quite unique in how we approach things. You know, we're a bit mad in ways, and how like we're almost obsessive when it comes to just quality and trying to get as close, say, to the producer as possible, and trying to get quality to as best as good as we can. And I think we have enough to focus on ourselves without trying to focus on, you know, the guys down the road or over the road.
Now, you know me long enough that you know I love warts and all. So tell me some of the things that went horribly wrong and how you fixed them.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah, there's an awful lot.
Big ones.
I think, well, and our first crowdfunding campaign was all about growing corn in Ireland for the tortilla chip company, for Blanco Nino. And I have a lot of family who used to grow sugar beet. And I was told very early on that the land that grew sugar beet had the perfect replacement crop was maize. And maize is another word for corn, or it's the correct word really for corn. And so when I was trying to make corn tortillas in my restaurant, and then I learned that, well, maybe the family can grow it, and maybe it can be, underutilized land, and, all of these things. It was like the stars had aligned. So I set out on this near adventure of sorts to try and grow everything in Ireland. And then I went over to, we raised the money and all that. And then we went over to these, actually both called Juan and Juan. You couldn't bloody write it. Two professors in a city in Mexico called Querétaro. One of them was called Juanito because he was the size of a house. Means little one. And they were kind of laughing on Phil. There's no fucking chance you can grow this in Ireland. You can grow these types of maize, which are good for, say, animal feed or whatever have you. But they're like, the maize you need for, say, premium quality corn tortillas need this amount of sunlight, this amount of heat. They need to be at this moisture content in the field when it comes to harvesting. If the moisture content's too high, you'll have damaging of, crop and kernels and all this stuff. So it was a real big, kick in the face to the ultimate, my idea. And then we kind of had a period of reflection, being probably about a week and a half, going, wait, what do we actually do now?
I'd say that's a euphemism.
Yeah.
Period of, you basically went, oh my.
Yeah, we did. And then, a few friends and some of the guys who invested were like, Phil, ultimately, we want to see you make corn tortillas. That's really why we're doing this. So then we said, like, we'll find, some really great quality corn, and we'll partner with farmers. And, then we were like, well, we'll try and integrate kind of impact into different parts of the business through sourcing and so on. So, but that was a big one, that was a big one. And then, we also, our first kind of raising of money was based around thinking the factory would cost X amount to run. But then I quickly realized that, the equipment that I was looking at in Mexico, was akin to maybe like tractors with blowtorches attached to them by European standards, and anyone with experience in manufacturing was like, this is lethal, you can't be using this. So then of course we were like, okay, well actually what is the equipment that we need, which was, or we were going to need, which is almost 3-4 times what we thought it was.
I love it. Like these business plans that people genuinely believe this is completely out the window.
Everything, yeah. Well, everything we thought, and like it wasn't like we were very sure that's what it was, you know. But when it came to putting it in, they were like, you can't use this stuff because when it comes to, say, safety shutoffs and guards for, say, hands going into equipment, all the kind of stuff, you just like what's allowed in Mexico and even in the US to a degree is not really allowed in Europe. European standards in terms of safety and protocol are just way, way higher, and they should be that way. They're all there for the right reasons. So, but yeah, you do. I think there's nearly every part of the business, whether it be in terms of financing or product or people or, figuring out process in terms of sales and how do you get sales and how do you, build relationships. Every single thing, at some point you get a punch in the face and you go, okay, so we don't do it that way, or this is how we do it going forward. And I think that the one thing I do have is I think I have a very, very high degree for punishment, a high tolerance for punishment.
Any entrepreneur has to have that.
Yeah.
There are so many wonderful, brilliant new food companies starting out.
Absolutely.
When you're looking at them, do you say, oh my God, help you, that's going to be tough?
I've spoken to a few. And I try to have a chat with a few people who are kind of, if someone asks to have a chat, I will. And you don't try to put the fear of God into people because you don't want to make people unenthusiastic. But sometimes people just do it because they think they can make a quick buck in it. But that's generally not how it's going to go. And then some products are just there. There's a lot of, say, technical know-how that if they knew it, you go, this is going to fail. That's
very interesting. Now, how do you know Is it just trial and error on your part, or where did your knowledge of that come from?
Well, I've a habit of going down rabbit holes, and like whether it be, I'm just generally curious about bloody everything. So, so I had someone recently who really wanted to make like a homemade, fruit dairy product, and there's natural yeast on fruit. And, that can turn into like canisters, grenades on a supermarket shelf if it's not handled properly. There's information you pick up through food science and through understanding shelf life and how much shelf life retailers want, and realistically, what kind of, so the more time you spend doing something and operating in an industry, the more time you understand, okay, what is actually needed to actually have things be successful, both from the retailer's point of view, but also the business's point of view, and distributors, everyone along the chain. So I think sometimes it's highlighting little details that are only things you can know through experience, and so on.
Which is a good thing to keep you in business, because obviously every hour, every year that you spend in the business, you're meant to be picking up knowledge.
Yeah, but I love that. I actually love that. Like I'm strange in my nature, and that I kind of get a kick out of reading business books, and I like.
Do you? What kind of business books?
Quite a few. So I'm reading.
Favorite?
A favorite business book? Well, it depends on who I'm saying it to. So anyone who's starting out, okay. Well,
I never read them.
Yeah.
I can tell you, so you can say any name to me.
Well, there's a really great book who I say to anyone, whatever industry they're going into, if they're starting off, and that's The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber. Or I might be pronouncing that correctly, but E-Myth standing for the entrepreneurial myth, or the and it's a fantastic assessment of the roles in a company, and he defines it by the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager, and how these are really three distinct personalities in a company, and roles in a company. But it puts a really good mental structure around who does what. Anyway, so I find that a great book. But one I'm reading at the moment, which is exceptionally good, is a story about a man called Bill Campbell. And he was a coach in the US, and he was like way too small for any normal football team, and I think he had a bit of a small man syndrome as a result. But he had a massive enthusiasm, massive passion for sport, and he ended up running into it. Who have own what are they called? QuickBooks, the accounting software. But Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, all these guys note him as being the key component in their success. So they'd meet up with him for a little wander around the park, nearly once a week. And by his nature, he was a coach. He had a different way to looking after people. His whole approach to management is coaching of people, building team alignment, all of these things. And he was coaching people in a management sense before coaching was really as untrended as it is now. But he's an incredible character to read about. So that's really good in terms of team building and achieving team alignment, especially as we're living in a more remote world,
And this is something that you're really into in a big way. You were telling me that you spend a lot of time on your recruitment process.
Yeah.
Such as?
CVs are, and people's prior experience is very important, but it's one piece of the pie. So I think it's incredibly important that the person wants to be on the team. So you're not just hiring for skill fit, and role requirement, but people really, really need to be want to be on the team. And we've certain ways of doing that, which I won't go into too many ways, but ensuring that we know this person wants to be here. And that nearly comes before, interview, and comes before really going into the CVs in too much depth. If we know they want to be on the team and they really want to be on the team, then...
Now you say you won't, or you're trying not to tell me, but I want to know, what is that little thing that you're looking for? How can you tell? Like, people are, they'll apply for a job. So is that not telling you, I want to join your team?
No. No, it doesn't.
Think so,
doesn't tell any. No, like it just some people just want a job, and that's also fine. That's also fine to a degree. But like, I for the company to be highly functioning or to be, the company to achieve significant market success, we need to be significantly different from everyone else in the market. And I think the only way we do that is by having people in the company who are immensely hardworking, very much aligned, have the same belief and vision as everyone else in the team. If there's any kind of incongruencies or misalignment, it pulls everyone back in the wrong direction. Now you need diversity of opinion as well, but as long as everyone believes ultimately in what we're going for, diversity of opinion is very important as well. So you don't want everyone, just saying the exact same thing. So there's differences, but so you want really people to show you that they have thought about applying for this role and why they want to actually be in the company. And we usually kind of get them to express to us, how that they uniquely feel, how they've come to apply for the job, and how they uniquely feel that they can add to the business, team and brand that is Blanco Nino, prior to sitting down for an interview. And if they've communicated that, we'll sit down, and generally the person who sits across the table for you, once they've articulated that, is a different person. They are so bloody enthusiastic and want the role. And even if they've like all the experience in the world, you want to ensure that they want to be in the seat in that role in the company.
Okay, now I've got 3 questions. 1, the future of Blanco Nino. What are you hoping to do? Because you are just, every time I meet you, which is every couple of years, you've only just grown exponentially.
Well, we've got pretty high ambitions. We've just launched these tortilla chips, and thank God
and they are lovely.
Good to hear it, Colin.
Lime and coriander. Is that the lime and chili? Isn't that the one? 2 thumbs up for that one. Yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, but we've put a mountain of effort into them.
Packaging is lovely. Did you get that designed here or where?
A bit. Like there's a bit of a story, but I'll be here till tomorrow if we go into that. All that.
Okay, we won't go there. But I'm looking at the time.
There's a lot went into that, and because the thing is, by my background, like the 2 things I actually did well at in school were art and maths, which are nearly contradictory in a way. So I'm pretty specific and I have a good idea what I want when it comes to the aesthetic of the packaging and all that. But it was a long journey to source that packaging and then get it designed and get the design to where we're happy with it. And there's a lot of dead ends and turn it about usual. Yeah. But I think it's there. But what's next, really?
Yep.
What's next is we're going to continue to build the team to kind of get the tortilla chips broadened out across Europe. We are going to then introduce our tortillas, which we're hoping for in the early new year. So our regular soft tortillas into the retail environment as well for people to use at home. Up until now, they'd only been available to like chefs and restaurants and so on. So we're going to be basically bringing professional quality tortillas into the home, I guess you could say.
That's the ad. Well done.
But then following that, we're really keen to start making salsas. And we've kind of...
That's a completely different business though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is. And it needs to be treated that way because by our nature, we're not making it easy for ourselves. So there's a way people make salsas, and it's generally akin to the way they make soup, and it's a very different thing, and it shouldn't be that way. So we've kind of gone through a whole process now of like how to actually make them on a micro scale and then scale it up, and then how do you actually build that manufacturing capability in a scaled up environment. And it's going to be a challenge to do.
And will you do that down in Tipperary?
We'll see. Probably, possibly, maybe it could be Mexico.
Probably, possibly, and maybe. But you also said maybe Mexico.
Maybe Mexico.
With a view to the North American market, or you're hardly going to ship them from Mexico to here, are you?
Well, we're looking at that because, there's a lot on the table at the moment because we're trying to get basically the best quality ingredients we can get. And it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks of the entire project is the availability of really good, say, chilies and so on, and the capability to make it. And so we're looking at, there's a few things we're not exploring. We're very open-minded as to where it will be. And we've got a lot of connections in Mexico, and we've just seen that it could be a possibility there. But then we have the other issues of kind of shelf life and so on. But we've made product, and this is not a joke now, but we showed it to some of our customers, and there was actual bowing when they were tasting it.
That is fantastic.
They couldn't get over it. But it is like the amount of work that went into these to make.
But it's still that's a win.
Oh yeah. Well, everyone we've shown them to is like this, because they're phenomenal. Like I know I'm biased in saying it, but they are phenomenal, and we put a lot of work.
They are obviously a premium brand, being your brand. But is it going to be at a premium price?
We don't yet to be defined, because we need to figure out exactly what the production cost is, and maybe we're a bit strange in that we're making the product first, and then that will define really what the price will be.
But I can understand that, because you want to know what it should look like, and then how do I get there?
Well, a lot of people with a lot of sense, make a product to fit a certain price point in the market. And there's a lot of sense to that, there's a lot of sense, but we're like, we want to make the best product we can possibly make, and then the price will demand the product's quality.
And it will be under the Blanco Nino brand, okay. Yeah. And that will see the light of day?
I don't think next year is realistic.
Oh, really? But that far out?
Yeah,
okay.
I'd say it could be towards the end of next year.
Well, you'll have to come back to us at that stage.
Absolutely.
But and we have run out of time, probably about 10 minutes ago. But I just find your brain brilliant. Your hire in a heartbeat. It's the last question we ask our guests always. Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
That's a good start.
Yeah, and I think the question is always, where your head's currently at. Mm-hmm. And just one thing I'm very much trying to improve at the moment, and I think we're pretty good at it, but I'm trying to improve it. It's just basically overall kind of team alignment, and as we've become more remote. So I'd love to hire our friend Bill Campbell, who that book was written about. It's actually called the $1 Trillion Coach, not to be confused with kind of life coaching and the likes, but he's an actual coach. But just that, I'm trying to bring more of that approach to how we run the business into our business, if that makes sense. But that means of coaching people as member of the team, as opposed to trying to just shove information down their head or coach them along in a much more collaborative way, I guess you might be able to say. So yeah.
Final thing.
Okay.
Team GBS, that's our listeners. What can they do for you? Where can they buy your product? Because you better get that ad in. Otherwise, your marketing people will probably kill you, but they'll certainly kill me.
Well, we've gotten a lot of value out of this before, actually, Colin. We had our Luxembourg distributor heard this exact conversation before, and
is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
that's nice to know.
There you go.
Well, we go all over the world. We have
go.
Listeners in Finland, in New Zealand, Australia, States, South Africa.
Yeah, well, we're always looking for people who kind of have a similar approach to ourselves in terms of selling product across, say, Europe and so on. But you can find our product online at Blanco Nino. So it's blanco-nino.com. And then we're available in the UK and Ireland and Sweden now with the tortilla chips. And then with just the tortillas for restaurants, bars and hotels are available across Europe, but, distributors and wholesalers. But if you'd like to get in touch, we'd always love to hear from you.
And it's Blanco, and Nino is Nino.
Yeah.
Blanco Nino. And that is Philip Martin, or Phil. Call me Phil, and he be the founder of Blanco Nino. Phil, we shall see you back on That Great Business Show, and thank you very much for joining us.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
De facto backs your businesses, so please back them by buying the world's best shaving oil, defactoshave.com. And as creator Tom Murphy keeps reminding people, it's a shaving oil, not a beard oil, so it's for everyone that shaves. That's why he says it's the best anyone can get.
That Great Business Show.
Now, a property development company called Quintain will, by the middle of 2023, have housed about 10,000 people of 28,000 people. And eventually they will be building an area larger than Kilkenny or Carlow or Tralee at Adamstown. That's a new suburb of Dublin. It's situated in the middle of a triangle between Lucan, Clondalkin and Rathcoole. The developer, Quintain, is part of a London-based company that is ultimately owned by a massive Dallas, Texas company called Lone Star, which in turn is headed by a man called John Grayken, who took out Irish citizenship over 20 years ago. In the next 6 years, 28,000 people, that's a big number, will call Adamstown home. So I wondered, how on earth do you get your head around a project of that size and do it at such speed? So who better to tell me than the joint managing director of Quintain in Ireland, Michel Hynes. Michel, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much, Conal. Delighted to be on. Be glad to know that this is my first podcast. So,
you're only trying to soften me up, not to go hard on you.
I think I'd nearly prefer to build a town for 28,000 people than to be on a podcast.
It's fascinating. Yeah. How? And I know you've got a history as long as your arm of being in the property business. But when you start talking about the numbers, let's throw out some numbers. How many houses, I won't say homes, how many homes is Quintain going to build?
Quintain have 5,000 homes to build at Adamstown. To date, we have completed with some partners over 800, and we've another 5,000 to go. We've 1,400 units under construction, and we've the town centre under construction. But yeah, we've in total 5,000 houses more to go. 5,000.
So I'm familiar enough with I can build a house. When I say I can build, I know who to call on to build a house. Who do you call on to build 5,000 houses? That's a phenomenal number. Logistically, pure logistics.
Yeah. So and we are a developer, so we do, as the Americans say, soup to nuts. So we do the acquisition, which we bought the site. We do the planning permissions. We do the detailed design. Then we do the construction or manage the construction if to bring people in, and then we do the sales and the aftercare. So just to answer your question on the construction, who does that? So we set up a strategic construction framework, one for high density. So that's where it's apartment buildings of anywhere between 6 to 10 stories in height. And we will be putting more urban contractors on that framework, the John Pauls, the Sisks, the Walls, the Bams, the Duggans. And then for the more lower density or medium density neighbourhoods, which is more housing or duplexes or 4-story apartments, we have a more housing orientated construction framework. And that's more, we're working with D-Res, we're working with GEM, we're working with B&C, and we intend ourselves as well to start doing some form of self-building of part of the housing product within our portfolio.
Sorry, self-building. Is Quintain going to do the self-build, or are you going to let people like me loose and allow me to build?
No. So at the moment, Quintain is only 2 years old. The company itself started with probably more land than I'd say any other company in the history of Ireland did. So we started with 9,000 sites in total, and 1 million square feet spread across 4 sites. We started with 7 people, and over the last 2 years, we only had our second birthday party last week. We grew from 7 to 52. We have the sites in very strong demand locations in Dublin, and so there's no point waiting to build a team to start getting on site and building for the much needed housing out there at the moment. So initially we are delivering on sites through a variety of contractors, a more house building contractor framework or a more urban high density contractor framework. Our construction team of very experienced project managers and construction experts and QSs from some of the best contractors in town manage the contractors delivering on our sites. It's a strategic framework in that we don't just say to the contractor, here you go and build it. We fully detail design the houses. We go...
Well, sorry, now you don't. Quintain doesn't. You get presumably architects or engineers or...
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So just like any developer in town, as part of the planning process, we would appoint a full design team, and that would be the architects, the engineers, the planners, the QSs, etc. However, Quintain, developers aren't coordinators. We are developers. We are development managers. So we will write a brief for that design team and tell them what we expect them to be delivering in the planning and designing in the planning for a particular neighbourhood. And we will sit side by side all the way through the design process for planning and ensure that they're delivering what our intent is. And then during the detailed design, our construction and PM experts will do the detailed design up to the point that we lock the design down, freeze it, and hand it over to the contractors to price, and then we'll manage side by side delivering it with them.
Let me start at the very beginning.
Yes, maybe an easier place to start. Yes.
It's nothing to do with Quintain, but the history of Adamstown is quite long, and we won't go into that.
It is, yeah.
However, you buy or you end up with the land.
Yes.
What's the process of working out what kind of housing you're going to put in there? Because in the current market, you could sell absolutely any kind of housing. People just want houses, obviously. So what does Quintain do? Do you sit down in a room and say, let's do this? Or there must be far more maths to it than that, or more science.
We have acquisition stage is a really, really important stage of our business, and a real significant amount of due diligence goes into that stage. So when we see a site that we might like to purchase, first of all, the type of sites that we go after are ones that are of a certain scale, generally over 1,000 units, because we have a very large team that we believe that can do better placemaking, better than design the most, and we want to make the most out of them. We generally like Dublin because Dublin has the strongest demand of from a buyers, whether it's renters and homeowners or social and affordable, but we are looking at some regional Ireland cities too, and we generally like it being on transport nodes as well, because that's where a lot of the demand is. So when we first of all, we tend to go for sites within that sort of bracket. Once we find a site in that bracket, we get on to our due diligence. So the due diligence, first of all, covers planning. So is it just a residential zoning? Is it in a local area plan, which has a certain amount of predetermined parameters? Is it in an SDZ, which has a huge amount of
special development zone?
Special development.
You're not allowed to use any of those words here.
Yes, a special development zone. There's only 6 or 7 of them in Ireland. And Adamstown was the first special development zone set up in 2003.
Actually, I think I might have misled you as in a strategic before they somebody given out
strategic development zone.
My fault.
Exactly. And so these are a type of planning legislation that was brought into place because, funnily enough, back in 2002 there was a housing crisis too in terms of supply. So essentially what was supposed to be happening is that the local authority, along with a lot of other stakeholders, come together and decide what should be in a town and how it should look, and then once it gets adopted as an SDZ, you must comply fully with all the predetermined development rules of that strategic development zone. And if you do, you can get planning within 8 weeks, and there's no right of appeal by third parties to onboard Panola. So it's a very much a fast-tracked planning process, and it's been working well in Adamstown.
So you find a patch of land with 1,000 minimum units that you can build there. What do you then do? What does Quintain do next?
So first of all, we review the planning, and within the development plans, we'll find what are the parameters that we're allowed to work in. Is it high density? Is it medium density? Is it low density? What we mean by that is it apartments? Is it a mixture of duplexes, terraces and apartments, or is it just semi-detached homes and houses? A development plan or local area plan will generally dictate that. So we'll go through every single rules around car parking, roads, etc.
And do you, because everybody thinks this anyway, do you try to squeeze the last out of it? Is if somebody says you can build 300, will you try to get 303 houses in?
We generally will try and maximise the units, because that's the best thing to do for any buyers of our product. If we can maximise or optimise the value of our sites, the land value is a lower part of the overall delivery cost, and we can supply more affordable units out to the market. So everybody should be wanting a developer to maximise or optimise. That said, when we look at buying a site, clearly we look at the rules that you're allowed to buy within, and we do not tend to buy or we don't tend to let's call it business plan for going any higher than what's allowable in the planning documents for a particular site. I don't think you get many shareholders to support that type of thinking, or no bank would finance a land acquisition on the basis of units above what a planning document is saying that you can do. But we will maximise, and that's the right thing to do for the buyers.
You very kindly mentioned finance there, because your ultimate owner sits in Dallas, Texas, Lone Star. Do you then have to go off and show them the plans and the project and say, I've got a few quid at the back that I can take, or how does that work with Quintain / Lone Star?
Yeah, so we're still on the acquisition process, and our shareholder Lone Star sit very much side by side with us in the acquisition process. They go fully on the journey with us. So we do the planning review. Next of all, we do site investigations to see if there's any contamination or how the ground conditions are, to see how far we have to dig down to find rock that anchors our foundations to. Next, we will do a full construction cost review of the type of scheme that we are going to recommend to Lone Star to ultimately buy the site with. How do we come up with that type of scheme is probably the most important part of what we do. We take a target market analytical approach to any site. So what do I mean by that? Who is the target market for the site? Is it a homeowner? Is it a renter? Is it social? Is it affordable? Is it a mix of all of that?
There was another one that you mentioned to me that I wanted to know more about.
Yeah.
Did you call them aspirational? Is that one of the headings?
There was. So within. You
have to tell me what that is.
Yeah, no. So we're building a new town at the moment in Adamstown. So within a town of 28,000 people and 8,000 units, there's going to be estates that are more aspirational or affluent in nature. And so what do I mean by that? The houses might be semi-detached or more detached in nature. They might have higher floor-to-ceiling heights. There might have a better level of landscaping around them. And the bathrooms and kitchens are just done to a higher, more affluent standard.
And presumably higher cost.
And absolutely a higher cost. But when you're looking at a whole town, if you just went and did the one product, say just your entry first-time buyer 3-bed house, and you did 5,000 of those, first of all, the town would be very bland. And wouldn't be interesting at all for people to live in. Second of all, we'd be very slow at delivering it, because there is, at the moment we have an accommodation crisis, not a first-time buyer or social and affordable home ownership crisis. Everybody needs accommodation. And when you're in a town, you have your aspirational neighbourhood or estate, you have your mid-market estate, you have your first-time buyer estate sprinkled in. Within all of those estates, you have pockets of social, pockets of affordable, pockets of rental. And that's generally the sort of heartbeat of the overall suburb. Then you'll have a couple of focal areas within the suburb. You'll have the village centre where you have your supermarkets and your florists and your butchers and your F&B and your bar and restaurants. You'll generally have a village green and you'll have a place for people to come and meet. And then sprinkled in and around all of that, we'll have schools and parks and transport. I think one thing that planning has improved upon, and the local authorities, in fairness to them, have really gone after it, is it's this whole idea of a 15-minute town. So everything is within a 15-minute public transport or cycle or walk, whether that's shopping, living, working, culture, sports, etc. And I think that's really important for a sustainable community. So that's sort of the different type of neighbourhoods we can have.
So you go to Lone Star, they like the project, and then do they sign the cheque?
No, so
not that easy, no.
Not that easy, no. So we have, first of all, as I said, we had to plan our town. So construction is based on how many sales or sales we think we can do, because there's no point.
And who does that analysis for you?
We do it with some of the best estate agents in town, along with some research analysts as well as ourselves.
God, there's an awful lot of work goes into this.
A huge amount of work.
How much time?
I'd say something like Adamstown took us 4 to 6 months and over €1 million of due diligence money to give us the confidence to go and buy a site that will be delivering 5,000 homes on. So it's a huge body of work. It's not something we just draw on a few pieces of paper and hope that it works out. Far from it.
And as I mentioned at the very beginning, you've got a long career in this industry.
Yes.
Is Lone Star more particular with the information that they're looking for before they'll say go ahead? Like, are they, more pernickety?
Yeah, what I would say is that they're definitely more institutional, and Ireland itself has become more institutional since the financial crisis. But before the financial crisis, doing really good due diligence was difficult. Why? Because there wasn't much research material we could put our hands on. There was no such thing as the property price register. We had to ring people and assume that what they tell us in respect of a sales price was real, or a rental price was real, or the amount of units that were sold was real. Same for a constructor, there was no construction register. There wasn't many indexes around construction. There was no lease registers for us to go and check who was leasing and what and at what. So back before the financial crisis, Ireland was only starting to become a bit more of an institutional country. Sure, the IFSC only started in the 1990s, and so I remember just after the financial crisis when I met Lone Star, the first thing they started asking me about is, where's the property price register index? Where are all the construction index? Just solely for housing, so for apartments, etc. We had none of these things. We didn't even have postcodes. But not just Lone Star, I would say international companies in general, and we've got a lot of new international companies in a lot of different sectors have come into Ireland and have, maybe shown us a bit more about how to do due diligence. And it is a very tough, hard slog to do all of that, but rewarding, because if you get it right, the likelihood of it going off the rails during the delivery over 5 to 6 years is less, and you're more likely to survive a few ups and downs if you've done it right. So it's worth it.
International funds brings me on to an area that gets me hot under the collar. There's so much ill-informed comment about vulture funds and cuckoo funds and all of the above. Discuss, as they say.
Yes. So I think a lot of the commentary around cuckoo funds is very unfair. Back to something I said earlier, we have an accommodation crisis, not a home ownership crisis. So we need every type of housing for homeowners, for renters, for social and affordable. And I think as of August of this year, a DAFT report showed that we are at the lowest level of rental accommodation in Ireland in over 25 years, because the rules around the build to rent industry have essentially forced out the mom and pop investor. But what I find funny about all of this is that back in 2000, when the mom and pop investor were the whole investment market, society was giving out about they weren't getting their home maintained, they weren't getting their deposit back, they weren't getting certainty of tenure, and now. And the only people that do that are big institutional landlords. And now we have these institutional landlords. They're maintaining well. They probably give way more amenities than any mom and pop would ever do. They will give security of tenure. Their intention isn't to take them away. They want the renters there. They're very professional in their approach. They're easily contactable. They have staff on site where you can meet them and discuss any issues you're having at any time. And now we're not happy. Once we've got everything we wanted, we're not happy. Why? Because they're international people that are behind a lot of these funds. So, and there isn't the capital in Ireland to solely set up one of these large funds. We just have to accept that. No bank is going to fund some Irish company and give them hundreds of millions to go and buy this. So
they used to,
but certainly not anymore.
Go there, I hope.
We won't. But another thing is that across Europe, these funds are welcomed in. A lot of them are seen as very important to society, and so in Ireland we just seem to have called them cuckoo funds, and society has turned against them because of the heavy media backlash against them.
and I didn't prepare you for this, what's the feedback from the States about what goes on in this country? Now, John Graykin, being an Irish citizen, I know he doesn't live here, but he probably is better informed than many. But do they ever say, this place is a crazy place to do business?
They do think that, and we've been not speaking really to John Graykin, but some of the other senior executives in Lone Star, at times they think we can react very quickly. In
a good way.
Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in not so good a way. So, for instance, only 3 weeks ago, the government introduced linking rental increases to an index, to an inflation index, European inflation index, which was running negatively for the last 10 years, but was predicted to run at about 2% inflation for the next few years. People are now worried that index could actually go up to 3 or 3.5%. And now, 3 weeks later, through worry, and there's no evidence that it is going up anymore, the government is coming out today and saying they're going to put a cap on the new cap of 2%. So it hasn't even transpired yet that it's going to run above the 2%. And because people are worried that it could, we're just reacting before there's any evidence. I also believe that some of the legislation recently around trying to ensure that developers can't sell homes to when these are single family homes to institutional investors was a little bit reactionary. And what I mean by that is that were the real facts sat down and thought about. First of all, who's deciding whether homeowners or renters are more important in society? To me, they're all equal. There's some people out there that actually do not want to buy a home. They want to rent because maybe they're young and they want a commitment. Maybe they have a job. They live regionally in Ireland. They have a job up in Dublin and only need the house for the week. We in Adamstown, we have Intel beside us, one of the biggest Intel plants worth, billions and thousands of people working there. They're looking for rental homes, not apartments in our sites. So I think when the decision, and by the way, we as Quintain do believe that homeowners should anchor a community, but we also believe that there is a place for renters because, as I said, not everybody wants to buy a home. So I think when they made the change, it was on the basis of a transaction which probably wasn't handled the best down in Maynooth, but they made it very quickly after that. Homeowners or institutional companies for rental homes in Ireland were only 3 or 4% of the overall stock. They're a very minor part of it. So to come in and actually almost halt it altogether and tell people of Ireland that no longer should you be renting really in homes, you should be renting in apartments. I felt that we probably could stand back and think about that a little bit more. I do believe, as I said, homeowners should anchor the society, but there should be some homes for rental. And today, I think it was in the media that, in fairness, with the legislation the government introduced, they still have left room for 30% of a scheme, maybe for homes to be rentalised. But today, I see 2 decisions by An Bord Pleanála, where they have not allowed even the 30% of homes be rentalised and they put it in as a condition of the planning permit.
I saw that. Are they even allowed to do that?
But the reason for it was for the common good. But I thought, planners had to adjudicate based on planning legislation, not the common good.
Which should be done in the courts if it's going to... that was a very strange decision.
Yeah. But what I do want to make it clear that from a house builder perspective, and I know most of the house builders in the industry, our goal was never to sell all our homes to rental institutions. 90+% of the homes the house builders out there are building are actually going to homeowners. A small amount are going to renters. But that's just normal sustainability. It's about mixed product, 3 beds, 4 beds, duplex and apartments, and mixed tenure, home ownership and renters, and social and affordable. So I just think to focus solely on social, affordable and first-time buyers, I'm not sure it is fully the right thing to be doing. We're in an accommodation crisis.
I could talk to you for the next couple of hours about this because it's such a really, really interesting business, but we don't have time.
No problem.
So I'm going to finish by asking you, and you have been prepared for this, about who your hire in a heartbeat is.
I got the text through from you telling me you were going to ask the question when I was on site this morning.
I sent it by email before that, but anyway.
So as in someone famous, I was thinking about it all around, and I think I would love to hire Shane Lowry. I'm not sure he would come and work for Quintain, but I'd love to hire Shane Lowry. He's someone that I think represents Ireland very well in all his attributes. He's a hard worker, he's humble, he goes about his job with honesty and integrity. He's good fun, I'd say, on a Thursday or Friday night. And if you were paired with him in a round of golf for the rest of your life, you probably wouldn't lose. So I'd hire Shane Lowry in a heartbeat.
But could he hang a door?
Could he hang a door? I would be okay with him not being able to hang a door.
Okay, Shane, Quintain needs you. Shane Larry, he seems to be an absolutely lovely guy. Never met him, but just like you, anything I've ever seen about him seems to be a lovely guy. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Michael Hynes, Joint Managing Director of Quintain. Thanks you very much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide. Backing great women-led businesses on every show. That Great Business Show.
The Gloss is a beautiful magazine that is part owned by the Irish Times, and it comes with that newspaper once a month. I think it's possibly the best produced magazine aimed at women on the island. The Gloss has recently joined forces with Goodbody Stockbrokers to run what I think is a really clever virtual investment club. They say it's like a book club, but for investments. Like the magazine, the club is primarily aimed at women, but I'm told by one of the bosses that men are allowed to join too. And the boss in question also tells me she's giving each participant €250,000 to invest. The boss in question is Michel O'Keefe. She is head of wealth advisory at Goodbody Stockbrokers. So, Michel, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much.
250,000 to each participant. That's very generous.
I tell you, I won't be the boss anymore if I was giving 250,000. So the investment club does actually give 250,000 virtual money within the club for you to buy and sell your shares. So just to be clear on it, it is virtual.
Brilliant idea. Whose is it? Whose brilliant idea was this?
I think it's a combination, really. So Goodbody have been trying to address the investment gap for women for quite a long time now, and we've undertaken a lot of initiatives for that. And funnily enough, the Gloss also were looking for that gap for their own readers. They felt that would be very interesting. So they approached us with an idea about a virtual fantasy portfolio, which we thought was a smashing idea. So meeting of minds, it's a good partnership.
And for those who may wish to participate, you can know absolutely nothing and still participate.
Absolutely. So we launched it for the first time last night. What people can do, it doesn't really matter what age. You can be young, old, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You can start investing whenever. But it is very much a learning forum. So if you do want to be part of the fantasy competition, which is a competition and there's tons of prizes around it.
$3,000, I think, is the top prize, isn't it? Did I read that? It
could be a little bit more, yeah. There are some smashing prizes. I won't say what they are, but there are prizes throughout, and they are designed for people who are actually taking part in the competition. And obviously the winner of the competition will get that big prize. But in terms of people who want to just join just from a training perspective, they can come at any time. But if you're going to join the fantasy competition, you need to get in now, because realistically somebody else is going to beat you to it. So,
how does it work?
What we do, and when we launched it last night, we give a video to you if you want to join the fantasy competition, just to show you how you can put on shares. But effectively, you can buy and sell shares, whatever you want. We give you some ideas. So last night, Laura Devoy, one of the directors with Goodbody.
Laura Devoy, who is I am a huge fan of hers. I'm going to say she's a huge fan of mine. I don't think so. She is an incredible woman in terms of investment.
She is. She's a mind of information. So last night she was talking about, some of the luxury good stocks, which was very interesting. And we ended up talking about handbags. And what we were saying to women was maybe instead of buying that handbag or investing in that handbag, you might invest in the owner of the company who produced them. And so there's lots of little nuggets as you go. We'll give you ideas week on week on individual shares. You might have your own ideas as well. You can put your trades on yourself at home. And it's just like a normal trading platform. We'll actually charge a commission, which is, again, a virtual commission. But just to give you an idea, if you did want to start investing, what that might look like, everybody gets their cut. So I think it's really, really good. It gets people really engaged. Over the next few weeks, we'll be showing people how to read charts, look up stocks, how to understand how prices move and why they do that. So, yeah.
I've always taken an interest in that area, and obviously I served my days as a stockbroker, so maybe it's unfair of me to say this, but I'm fascinated by the numbers of people who have no idea. Like, it's not exactly rocket science. Choosing the right ones, you go for good advice. I'm sure Goodbody will give the very best advice. But in buying and selling, it's not rocket science, and yet so many people that I read, say in those little columns about me and my money, they say, never touch shares, don't know anything at all about it. That's curious, isn't it?
It's almost frightening, really, because people really should. They really should know about it. And what we see is an awful lot of the younger generation aren't afraid. So you see them with their cryptocurrencies and all sorts of things that the rest of us would probably run a mile from. But they are very, very interested in stocks and shares. And but I thought what was really good last night, there was a lot of engagement from all ages. So people do actually want to learn. This is a nice, easy forum. You can do it from home. We're sending you educational pieces so you can sit down and learn what a share is, what it means to buy it, what it means to hold it, and how you can buy and sell it. So all the nuts and bolts of it. So, and you're doing it in a risk-free environment. Your 250,000 virtual money, again, is there. So if you lose it, there's nothing out of your own pocket. So I think it's a really good place to learn how to do that.
And you say it's like a book club. So you join, is it once a month and it's a Zoom call or whatever it is once a month? Yeah.
So it's actually live. We do a live webinar. We had great engagement last night.
How many people have you signed up, or are you going to tell me?
I think it's a trade secret. Say that. It could be a trade secret, but we'll say it's over 500. Which
and you are delighted. I'm very pleased.
Yeah, we're delighted. And I think it's probably going to build because last night was the first one. But it's on the second Wednesday of every month. And the next one's on the 10th of November. It's 7:30 and it's for an hour. So it's only an hour of people's time.
And the thrust of what I saw was that it was for women.
But, did you sneak in online?
But you knew that you were going to get beaten up if you said it was for women only. So you told me that it was for men want to join as well.
It's for all genders, but we predominantly focus on women because what we've seen is women don't really take control of their own finances. They do lack confidence, even though they don't lack ability. So they lack confidence in making their own financial decisions. And it's
strange, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking at you, Head of Wealth, Laura. Fantastic. I think she's got a big title as well. Director. Sarah Quirk, another one. Yeah. All the people, so many people at that senior level. You probably won't remember. There was another woman in Davies called Ruth Hackett. She was head of the game there as well. Like top people. Yeah. And all women.
All women. And I think, to be honest with you, I think Goodbody are probably leading the charge there. We do have a lot of senior women and a lot of young women coming through. But, and I'd say we're leading the charge in terms of wealth in Ireland. But if you compare us to other businesses and other professions, we definitely have less women in the profession. I can never really understand why. So many women go into accountancy and related, financial services. But I really don't know why, and it's something that always puzzles us because we're always looking out for really good people, and it would be great to have that diversity.
So having diverted you from what you were trying to tell me about women and their finances, let's go back in there again. They leave it to other people. Strange.
It's strange in a couple, and we spoke about this last night. So, you know, a male-female couple, generally the women take the back seat. Now, this is not in all cases, but it's generally, and we see it a lot. And then it's been a tough all year. So we have seen some circumstance where people have lost loved ones, or, you know, where somebody has gotten very ill and can't manage the finances. And you have a woman very capable but doesn't know where to start. So we're really trying to educate women. There's an awful lot of women at the tops of businesses, as you've just said, and they are earning very, very well in their own right. And I think it's really important that they understand how to manage their own wealth. And even if they don't take advice from, you know, a professional advisor, if they have somebody else that they can trust in difficult circumstances, you really do need somebody to bounce this off. So
we are very, and again, a further curiosity from me, we're very, very different to Britain on this one. Like, if I read the UK press, and it's full of stocks, shares, advice, and it's male, female, or whatever. Ireland's just so different now. I don't know, is that our colonial past, or that we were all poor, or something? But it's still fascinating that we do not take an interest. It's because, maybe I'm wrong to say this, but stocks and shares are not too different to the horses. We love our horses. I know I'm not allowed to say that.
We would never compare those.
No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be a great, great, great hobby.
Yeah, I think so. I think what people have always thought is that you need an awful lot of money to invest. And you can start really small. So we see things like grandparents giving children, grandchildren, say they're $3,000 per annum, and as their tax-free lump sum. And now we're starting to see young adults, if you like, starting to make investments with that money rather than leaving it just sitting in the bank. So you can start very small. You don't need big amounts. You do have to understand the risk you're taking, but, you know, you can start very small. And there are savings, you know, that people can make without buying individual stocks and shares. But there are things like funds and that would probably be a little bit less risky.
And again, in case anybody suddenly says, what's a fund? It is really, really simple. It's like buying bags of sweets or something. It's just really simple.
Mm-hmm. Again, like a fund is just a manager manages all the underlying equities for you, and you're just buying a little piece of that. So instead of buying the one stock, you buy lots. And that's the only difference really between the fund and buying a direct equity. But I think the fantasy competition is fantastic because you can give it a go. If you really mess up, it doesn't really matter, you know. Just don't tell your friends. But we will be doing a leaderboard. So if people want to, put themselves up on the leaderboard, we can see how that goes from week to week.
And I also know you mentioned it there that you saw that you're advising on other types of investments like the handbags, or did I see that did I see art, and what are the other ones?
Yes, so the Gloss and ourselves will be bringing lots of speakers through the series. So there'll be speakers on fashion, art, interiors, wine. Last night there was fine jewels, a lady from Adams, and also then we are bringing our own speakers around pensions, inheritance, tax, rainy day funds. So there's a lot to be gleaned over the next number of months.
And there's no cost. Well, there's one teeny little cost, but that actually goes to a good cause. It's €15, and that goes to
Uncusson.
And who are Uncusson?
So Uncusson are our charity partner. They work with single mums, and they try and empower them and educate them to get them back into the workplace.
And Goodbody has been looking after them for quite a while, from what I remember.
Yeah, I think we're in our third year now as their charity.
And so it's £15 to have a bit of fun. Absolutely. And you can sit down, you can have a glass of wine and chat away. And what's the form of participation? What does one do to participate?
So you can log on. There's a website. And
don't worry, we'll give that.
Oh, will you? Okay. So there's a website, and that is with the Gloss magazine. So all you do is you go in, put in your name and address, put up your credit card for your €15 and that goes to An Cosán, and the rest you can just join. We'll send you a link. You join the webinars from the comfort of your home. And I know last night a lot of people scooched into other people's houses and had a bit of fun around it. So it's designed to be enjoyable as well. So while you learn, you can also have a bit of fun.
I was hoping you were going to say that the credit card, that you'll deduct the 250,000 out of it, you know. You wish.
If we were giving 250,000 out free, I'd be participating myself.
Oh, you're not allowed to, are you?
I'm not allowed to.
And so this runs until?
So initially we're going to run it for 6 months and see how it goes. So that's out to March of next year. And as I said, the second Wednesday of every month at 7:30.
And anybody can participate?
Anybody can participate.
And you'd be mad not to. I used to do these things there was a newspaper that you don't even remember called the Sunday Tribune. Remember that?
I do, unfortunately.
I won that prize a couple of years running. I was good. And all I did was pick other people's brains because that's all you do. I wouldn't have an idea what to do myself. Final question. You're hire in a heartbeat.
I would hire Baroness Helena Morrissey. She's the lady who set up the 30% Club to try and encourage more female directors of companies. An absolutely super approachable, very down-to-earth woman. She was on one of our women's series recently, and a smashing person. She was a big fixed income manager.
That's who it is. You're the second person I think who has recommended her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's, am I right? She's the same lady who's a mother of nine or something?
9 children, yeah. And she's managed to have that career as well. She has a super husband as well, obviously, who does all the managing of the household.
Somebody had to produce the night. Anyway, I won't go there. So Helena, is she Helena Morrissey, Baroness?
Baroness Helena Morrissey.
Yeah. We'll give her a buzz and we'll say that
tell her I'd like
Michel O'Keefe would love to have a chat, and would you come working with Goodbody? Would that be okay? Yeah.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. Well, now, thank you so much for joining us, Michel O'Keefe, who is head of wealth advisory at Goodbody Stockbrokers. Go to the Gloss, is it .ie? Gloss.ie, I think is
it's thegloss.ie /
Oh, they can find it after that, yeah.
Club,
I looked at it online. Okay. It's very, very easy. And again, congratulations to the Gloss for a beautiful production every month. That is it from That Great Business Show, episode 57. Tortilla fan Senor Roberto Curry was on sound, and Senor Pedro Rice will add some further spice to us later on. Gracias to you both. Team GBS wants to make more podcasts like the ones we're making for the Love Irish Food brand. So if you'd like our team to deliver world-class podcasts, do please get in touch. And we are delighted that Big Red Cloud, the best SME accountancy software around, has taken the wise decision to advertise with us. You could be as smart as they are by advertising with what our listeners call the best business podcast around. And if you know of a great business that should be featured on Ireland's Best Business Podcast, please do not hesitate. Tell us all about it on the website, thatgreatbusinessshow.com, or via our LinkedIn page, where we have great conversations with past, present and future guests. It's actually getting busier and busier and busier. I almost spend all day now on LinkedIn chatting to people. Finally, my thanks to our sponsor, defactoshave.com, the world's best shaving oil. Try it for just a week, and like me, you will be a forever convert. So for me, Conal O'Moran, until the next time, slán.